I have no idea how you found this show, but I'm glad that you did. Hey, I'm John Hicks. Join me and my band of crazies today on the Retirement Solution Podcast.
Here with John Hicks, I'm Jennifer Perry. Thanks so much for joining us this week. And if you want more information on John and the entire team at J. Hagan Capital, if you have a retirement question for us too, just reach out to us on the website at retirementsolutionradio.com. You brought up this line last week from the great legendary Jack Bogle. We lost him, oh, goodness, right before the pandemic, I believe.
Absolutely. I think it was 2019, maybe the end of 2019.
Maybe so, yeah. You know, he's a legend in the investment world. If you've ever heard of Vanguard, you should know who Jack Bogle is. He founded the whole thing and really created this concept of index investing. But you brought up this line in particular, and I thought it was worth revisiting this week here, John, because I think we're all trying to figure out what the market's going to do next. But as Jack reminds us in this old interview clip here, there's just no point in checking up on the market every single day and trying to figure this out.
I came into this business when I was at Princeton, and I worked for a brokerage firm in the summer. And one of the old runners said, "Bogle, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know if you're going into the investment business." And I said, "What's that, Raymond?" And he said, "Nobody knows nothing." And that's true. We don't know what the future holds. We guess, we look at the past. Sometimes it misleads us, sometimes it leads us correctly, but we can't tell the two apart. And the markets are very hard to deal with because we have all these opinions out there, and we've got to say, I'm smarter than everybody else. And that just isn't going to happen.
Nobody knows nothing.
How good is that?
Right.
I mean, how good is just his entire thought process there? And it happened to him early in his career, which I think is what shaped him to basically be one of the creators, if you will, of index investing. Now, what do I mean when I say index investing? It's probably what about 90% of the people listening own in those 401ks or IRAs you got, where you're just investing in the S&P 500 index or the Russell index or the NASDAQ index. Because his whole point was, selecting individual stocks is kind of hard.
Yeah.
Why don't we just buy the 500 biggest? And if the economy does good, it should do good too. Great idea. And the craziest thing is that by him coming up with that was because I believe of that commentary. Nobody knows nothing. Man, isn't that the truth?
Yes. And, looking at my own accounts over the years, I think you're right, John. Most of us invest this way. I have this older kind of what I call my lazy money account that I just left in the S&P 500 index for, I don't know, the last decade or so.
Sure.
It's done really, really well.
Absolutely.
But is that about to change for those of us who got used to index investing?
Was that a trap? Is this a test of what we were supposed to know? Nobody knows nothing?
Yes. Tell us what's happening next, John.
Yeah. But I think that's happened to a lot of us. And here's the thing, and I know what Bogle was referring to, and let me go ahead and get just a little bit deeper for 1 second.
Okay.
Bogle's talking about short-term issues, like what's going to happen over a quarter or maybe even a year, right? Nobody's going to have an idea of we're going to have inflation or deflation next. No one really knows if the S&P is going to go up from here or down from here. Why? Because it could easily go both ways. No one knows if the dollar is going to weaken or if it's going to strengthen. My guess is that it will weaken if we keep printing money. But when you look at those things, no one knows anything over a short-term basis. I call that maybe a year. But when you look historically at what happens over long periods of time, the general idea is to bet on the U.S. It's been a pretty good beacon for strength in the world. Now, are we deteriorating that strength right now, what we're doing? Maybe. Maybe we're doing a lot of things wrong. So is it possible that history is not going to be very kind to the U.S. over the next couple of years? See, no one knows, guys.
Right.
So when you look at this kind of thing, here's what we have to understand. In order to fix ourselves so that we can not only retire, Jennifer, but stay retired, we need to make sure that we have a portfolio that can do all four things, okay? There's essentially four things that can happen in the long run.
Okay.
We could have inflation, which means that we have rising interest rates and rising cost of goods and services, which we've actually heard a lot of recently. As a matter of fact, you've heard it from me. Why? Because we had a 5.8% increase in inflation year over year. That's a lot. But we heard from Kathy Wood, who runs one of the biggest technology funds on the planet. She's been considered a genius over the last couple of years. She says we're going to have a deflationary period because of all the technology that's coming out. That's going to make everything cost less. See, who knows? Which one's right? Is it because we're just had recent inflation we think it's going to last? Or is Kathy Wood correct? Because of all the technology and the artificial intelligence and our ability to use machines and robots to make things, can we make it cheaper? See, I don't know. So because of that, we have to have something that competes with inflation in our portfolio. We have to have something that works when there is deflation in the portfolio. We also have to be prepared for a market crash as well as the market growing. So when you think about those four major things that can happen, and there's all kinds of minor things that can happen to us as individuals. Heck, there are major things that could happen to us as individuals, right? We could have a health scare. We might lose our job a little earlier than we thought. We could get a huge promotion, and it could give us a completely different level of income, or we can do different things. So all of those things are hard to look at on a short-term basis, but over a long-term basis, we can see things. So when you kind of look at what we need to be prepared for, we kind of need an all-weather approach. No matter which of the four seasons, and hey, we're in the Kentucky area, right? So we know we can get all four seasons sometimes in the same week.
Yes, sometimes in the same day, it seems like.
Right. So we got to be prepared for that. So one of the people that kind of pioneered over the past couple decades the idea of all-weather investing, he kind of looked a little bit about what Jack Bogle did. He understands what Kathy Wood was talking about. But the guy I'm referring to is Ray Dalio.
Okay.
If anyone has ever heard of Ray Dalio, he is one of the most successful, one of the largest hedge fund managers on the planet. But he has a very unbelievable amount of common sense to him, which makes me really gravitate to him, and a lot of people do. But Ray Dalio said you need to be prepared for all four of those things in your portfolio at all times. But he also said one big thing, guys, and this is where I'm going to tell you, I have no idea what's going to happen in the future, but I do know what Ray Dalio said. He said when the markets get really extended, like they are right now, you have to be very careful how much of your losses will come from stocks. He suggests for the average person that's going to consider retirement to never have more than 30% of your money in equities when things get this expensive. Now, that's very different than we hear the industry talk about. But Jennifer, if you look at Ray Dalio's approach, you can go all the way back to 1985. His approach has averaged nearly 10%. So when you think about, man, this guy is saying, we don't know what's going to happen. But if you look at where risk happens in a portfolio, it's typically at this point in time from those equities, we got to be careful. So when you're kind of trying to figure out what can you do, in our office, we call this profit rotation. Profit rotation. Those things that have done unbelievably great in your portfolio, is it time to go ahead and pull the money out of the casino's paws before they can get it and put it in our pocket, keep the profits, and rotate the money to safer instruments now. See, I don't know if it's right for you, but I do know for our clients, if we've got something that's been on a tear, we've killed something, we've done such a great job, we're talking about profit rotation. Put our money that we have as gains and lock it into a place that we can't have losses and wait for the next best buying opportunity. If we look at history right, and we do have a downturn of 20, 30, 40%, how cool would it be that you had a whole bunch of money that didn't lose a penny, so you get to buy the good bargains when they're 30, 40, 50% off? We call it profit rotation. If you're not doing it, there's only one question. Why?
Like what you hear? Be sure to hit the subscribe button. And thanks for listening to The Retirement Solution with John Hicks.
The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or any specific security. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. J. Hagan Capital is a registered investment advisor. To find out if John Hicks is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal advice. Annuity guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products and annuities offered through John Hicks. Kentucky Insurance License Number 998827.